Hello everyone, in this video I'll be showing you an overpowered stealth archer build in Baldur's Gate 3, mixing in the arcane archer fighter alongside the assassin rogue and the gloomstalker ranger. This build pretty much lets you solo the game because combat is over before the enemy even gets a chance to take a turn. And you get actually some pretty crazy damage output, as you can see here, getting crits with the arrow of many targets, being able to spread those crits around to multiple enemies. And the best part about this is we can hide from the shadows, which messes up the enemies and they can't even see us. Stealth archers have always been really fun to play, dating back to like the 1998 Thief game, and most recently obviously like Skyrim making it a meme where the stealth archer is overpowered. This time around, it's very powerful as well. Now, there's a few great race choices here. I like the Drow half-elf in particular because this gets darkness at level 5. The Dwergar also gets their own invisibility they can cast at will, and Githyanki gets an invisible mage hand, which is obviously really nice as well for stealth. And the class that I would recommend starting off with is the fighter. This gives you constitution saving throw proficiency so you can hold your concentration on darkness, pass without trace, you name it. As mentioned, we will be adding in the ranger and the rogue as well as a multi-class, one of the most powerful builds. I actually did a build on this like a couple years ago. It's still extremely powerful, especially with the new patch 8 content. For our fighting style, archery for +2 to range weapon attacks obviously makes sense here. Defense is a good second choice, but we'll get another fighting style later on. Now for our ability points, dexterity and constitution are two of our most important. However, strength is also quite important. You can get around this with a strength potion if you really want to and use the Titan string bow. That'll give you the highest possible damage. You can't get your strength stat that high without it, but it is not necessary at all for this build. If you did want to use that though, you could take points out of your strength, put them into wisdom because having better wisdom saves is really important, although not necessary. Intelligence is also another important stat here for the arcane archer because that's where they get their spell save DC for their spells. So if you really wanted to min-max it, you would dump your strength and use a strength potion. That's just, again, min-maxing, not necessary. You can go 14 strength, 16 dex, 16 con. This just gives us better spell save and a bit of defense when it comes to spells. And for skill proficiencies, either acrobatics or athletics will be an essential skill. Later on, we want to grab stealth when we add in the rogue. Level 2 is when this really comes together. Action Surge is such a powerful ability. Even in honor mode, you get an extra 2 attacks here, which is a very powerful ability since this can let us just end combat before it even begins pretty much. Level 3 lets us take our subclass. Now, the Battle Master is a great choice as well because you could take the riposte attack here. Menacing attack and frighten targets, making them unable to move. Pushing attack lets you reposition enemies as well, which can be nice, and you do a ranged trip attack to knock targets prone. However, for this, we'll be using the Arcane Archer. Also, highly recommend checking out my Heartsworn Knight Fighter if you want a charisma-based modded subclass. Obviously, no mods used for this, just outside the outfit. Just for the showcase, I will be showing gear off from the base game, but the Arcane Archer does give us guidance, a really nice thing to have if you don't have it on anyone else. Light is kind of the antithesis to this build. We're not going to grab it because we're all about darkness and stealthiness. So, our Arcane Shots, Banishing Arrow is one of the craziest abilities in this game. You can banish a difficult target to deal with and just not have to deal with them for 2 turns. Shadow Arrow also makes sense on this, blinding targets, although we can set up blind really easily with our darkness. So I'd recommend grabbing Seeking Arrow. This is just good when you need guaranteed damage. This is also like Magic Missile, hunt enemies down, and it can apply Fairy Fire. Now, Piercing Arrow does have some nice usefulness early on in the game. There's some bows that can apply Frightened, like the Bow of the Banshee, and you can apply that on everyone when you attack with this. There's also, again, Shadow Arrow fits the theming of this build the best. Bursting Arrow can be nice to spread damage around in an area of effect, but I think Shadow Arrow is great. The one essential is Banishing Arrow. Now, level 4 gives us our first feat. Now, Alert is just so crazy powerful. We have a high dexterity score, which will give us a initiative that's going to be higher than most enemies. It's only a D4 initiative compared to like Dungeons and Dragons having a D20 initiative. +5 just means that you're going first and it can't be surprised, which is good in certain circumstances. Sharpshooter is also nice, but we can take this once we get to like our max level, and ability score improvement on dexterity can work as well. But we want to go first and then shut combat down as soon as possible, so Alert is the best choice for us. Now, for our level 5 here, this is when everything starts to come together. Extra attack, obviously very good. At this point, we're going to add in a multi-class. Now, I recommend going to the Ranger next, because at level 3, we'll get an additional attack on the first turn of combat, but you can mix in with the Rogue if you prefer to go a bit more stealthy early on. This entirely depends on your play style. If you find you like to go stealth really quickly, the Rogue will be best, although there is items that can give us some extra stealth, making it obviously great, but not super necessary. I like having the Ranger here, because this gives you the I guess, ban ensnaring strike. None of these are really effective on this particular setup, but it's the natural explorer giving us a raven, which can scout ahead for us and also take a hit away from our team, which is really nice. But it also gives you the wasteland wanderer fire. Resistance to fire damage, one of the most common damage types in the game, is really nice. The beast tamer is good too if you prefer it, and this also gives us a skill ability. Now, I'd highly recommend grabbing stealth here, because once we add in the rogue, we can then just grab the expertise in it. So yeah, definitely grab stealth at this moment. Level 2 gives us our fighting style, so now we can get defense for that +1 to our armor class, and we can also grab Hunter's Mark. Not super necessary, as we do have other concentrations to toss onto this, and Snaring Strike is just okay. We typically have other uses for our bonus action, so I'd recommend tossing on Fog Cloud, because this can create a difficult terrain or a blindness zone, so you can lock down areas a little bit earlier on in the game at level 7. Hunter's Mark is amazing, so I'd recommend grabbing that, and Long Strider can also be good to buff up yourself in the team, so you get some extra movement speed, which benefits a stealth archer quite a bit. Now, level 3 of the Ranger, we're grabbing Gloomstalker. This gives us another further +3 to initiative, so even Cazador can't beat us in the initiative load order. So a lot of the bosses in this game, and even in honor mode, have a very high initiative. Going with alert is a little bit of overkill, but really, you want to go first. So you could put those points into dexterity as well if you prefer. But this also gives us an extra 3 meters of movement speed, and we get an additional attack on the first turn. We also get superior dark vision up to 24 meters, the dread ambusher hide, which is amazing because this kind of turns us all full circle. We have that bonus action that we're not going to be using for most anything. We can use it to hide, which is great, so that we can just go back into stealth. You also have the Umbral Shroud, it's kind of useful. And Disguise Self lets you actually use some of the Githyanki gear, because you can swap into one of them, equip it, and then remove your disguise, and you'll keep all those benefits from the gear. Now, at this point, Long Strider or Ensnaring Strike, I don't like to use it the bonus action from this, so I prefer typically Long Strider. Now, for level 4, we're then going to mix into the Rogue. Now, the reason we wanted to grab Stealth earlier is that we can get that, and then we can also get the full proficiency and expertise in Sleight of Hand. If you care more about combat, we can then put those points in acrobatics. Getting a +9 prevents you from being shoved. It's one of the few downsides in any particular, just the way Baldur's Gate 3 is set up. So resistance to being shoved is better for combat. If you want to be better outside of combat, Sleight of Hand obviously is the way to go. So it's entirely up to you. Level 2 gives us, again, we got another bonus action ability. We got bonus action, dash, and disengage. So this is nice because then we can get into proper positioning. You'll be dashing a lot once you get this added on. And then we're adding in the assassin. I'm working on a new rogue subclass here, so a little spoiler alert there. But with this, you get the advantage on attack rolls against creatures that have not taken a turn yet. This becomes pretty crazy because with our high initiative, we can go first, and then we got a higher chance of hitting a critical hit against them. Any successful attack roll, then that obviously gives us the, whenever we surprise creatures, we get the critical hit. So if we can start off combat that way with an arrow of many targets, as you saw at the start of combat, it just destroys everything. And what's also nice is we can start combat with an attack now. Previously, if you use up your action to start combat, you lose that action. So which sucks because you can do one attack and then you lose that full action. This will restore your action and bonus action at the start of combat. So you can be kind of sneaky and start with like a dash and then attack and get all of that back before the fight starts. And even better, you can go with greater invisibility and hide in darkness and have all that. Now for our final level here, this is a little bit sneaky because you can get an extra health point or hit point from going with the fighter here or with the ranger. So it's your call there. We're going to go with the fighter and then you have a few options. You could go with the dexterity increase. Again, you don't have to take alert. You could previously just done a dex increase. I'm also going to quickly mention the lucky feat, which can give you advantage on attack rolls, ability checks, or saving throws, or make an enemy re-roll their attack rolls. It makes sense in a stealth archer to have some form of like defense that way. Not necessary though. My personal favorite is Sharpshooter. This can give a -5 to the attack roll, but deal an additional 10 damage. Since we're getting advantage on our attack rolls when we're stealthed up, and we got some nice bonuses to our attack rolls, we're not going to miss often, but you can always toggle this off if you're not feeling lucky. And we also don't receive penalties from high ground rules, so from low ground, no big deal. And that outfit is the Nihilium outfit here, made by Kali Sins. Now, the lovely part about equipment for this build is you have so many options throughout the beginning all the way through to the end of the game. Now, one of the first items you can grab is the haste helmet. Momentum builds, actually gives us a lot of movement speed. This is nice early on. The helmet of arcane acuity with if you use the arrow of many targets, can make it so that your arrows have an easier time landing. The banishing shot there. We also have the Circlet of Hunting. This gives a 1d4 bonus to attack rolls if we're using Hunter's Mark. So if you like to use that ability, you can have a higher hit chance. Late game, obviously, Helm of Baldur is amazing. And Holy Lance Helm, an early game option to give you some extra damage against enemies that miss you with attacks. Late game, though, the Steel Watcher Helmet. This gives you the ability to not be blinded, meaning you can use darkness. It also gives advantage on Constitution saving throw checks. So if you're holding a concentration on darkness, it's easy. But yeah, Helmet of Arcane Acuity or the Haste Helm, depending if you're on Act 1 or Act 2. Now for cloaks, the Cloak of Displacement is great. This gives enemies disadvantage on attack rolls against you. I'd rather have that on like a mage type character. So if you're the Dark Urge, you're in luck because this is the best in slot. Whenever you take out an enemy, you become invisible for 2 turns, which is obviously really good when we got darkness in the area. Now you can also use the Shade Slayer Cloak to give you increased critical hit chance by 1 while hiding. And the good old fashioned Cloak of Protection for +1 AC works great too. For armor, later game, the Armor of Agility gives you the highest possible armor class value, so if you care about not getting hit, if you care about doing pure raw damage, you can do a little glitch to get yourself the Ballast Armor on a good playthrough, alongside the Duller Amara. Now, the Dark Justiciar half plate is also great. While obscured, the character has an advantage on their stealth checks. This also gives advantage to con saves too, but the big thing here is getting stealth and not losing stealth. But there's also early on in the game, the Graceful Cloth, which gives you the Cat's Grace. Whenever you have this, it gives you advantage on dexterity checks and only takes half damage from falling. The advantage on dexterity checks is massive because that means that we're getting stealth checks with advantage. So it really just depends. You can go later on with the Dark Justiciar here. And that's what I'm going to roll with. You do lose a little bit of armor class, but not a big deal. You also get Shard's Aegis, increasing armor class by 2 as a bonus action concentration. So if you've been found, you can use that. Plus, I don't typically use this armor, so it's nice. And a lot of people do end up getting that. It's not a lot of people do, but you can also go with the Unwanted Masterwork Scale Mail and then take like the poison resistance from the Ranger, and then you get resistance to fire damage in a 16 armor class as well if you have someone else wearing the other armor. As mentioned though, Graceful Cloth is just so good. Even though it's clothing, it fits this build really well because we can just stealth and stay out of combat. And also another choice is, although you can't get this stealth, is the Adamantine Scale Mail in the early game before you get the darkness set up. I guess I should mention the blue version of this also works well. I'm just going to use the Armor of Agility as I guess that's more accessible to people. You just don't want to have anything that gives you disadvantage on stealth checks, so that gives us high armor class. Now, I like the Legacy of the Masters, +2 to attack and damage rolls with weapons that will offset our sharpshooter. If you care about pure raw damage, the Helldust Gloves will work great because they also give you spell attack or spell save DC for our arrows, although that's obviously a very late game item. Gloves of Dexterity can work well, and you'll get those in Act 1, and then you can dump Dexterity if you prefer. Also, the Dark Justiciar Gauntlets will give an additional 1d4 of necrotic damage. And the Crater Flesh Gloves probably work the best on here. It says it's a 1d6 of force damage, which is kind of a lie because a critical hit makes it a 2d6, so it actually gives you a pretty big boost to damage. Now, Act 1 boots that I really enjoy here, can't be enwebbed, entangled, or slip, and you get a Misty Step for free. It's really good. This is just something you definitely want to throw on. There's also like the Boots of Stormy Clamor because you can apply conditions, especially if you got like the Illithid ability Drain, which can apply reverberation on the enemy. Evasive Shoes work too, but I like that Misty Step here. Now, rings. The Snowburst ring is interesting because if you have a teammate with the Drake Throat Glaive, they can use Draconic Elemental Weapon when you have your bow out, and you can apply ice surfaces in huge amount of areas. Very powerful combination. Just, again, you're immune to it, so you can be kind of sneaky because one cool thing about Baldur's Gate 3 is darkness and ice can stack. Normally, if you have a burning surface, it won't stack with it, so dark ice. Crusher's Ring for the increased movement speed can work well too. And personally, I think that the Ring of Shadows is an essential pickup because Pass Without Trace gives you a +10 to stealth, so you don't get out of stealth. Ring of Free Action can also be decent, so you ignore difficult terrain. There's also Ring of Regeneration to give yourself some extra healing. Ring of Protection for increased armor class. And the Shadow Cloaked Ring is another good choice, but I personally like the Snowburst Ring, and you can be really sneaky with that, as you can just create a bunch of difficult terrain, which forces the enemies to move around. That's like min-maxing it though. The Shadow Cloaked Ring works really well. You just have a lot of ring options. Now, late game Amulet, the Amulet of Greater Health obviously gives you the most survivability for the sake of that. Surgeon Subjugation Amulet, once per long rest, a crit will paralyze a creature, which gives them another crit. Why this is so good? You can actually, once you have that target paralyzed, walk up and within 3 meters of them, attack them with arrow of many targets, they get crit, and then everyone else that'll be in the vicinity gets crit too. It's pretty crazy. Corvid Token to turn into a Raven can actually fit the theming of this well. There's also the Periaptive Wound Closure to heal yourself, and the Harper Amulet, which can give you shield and advantage on wisdom saves to help out in combat. Now for weapons, I highly recommend the Dollar Amaris because our crits are going to be deadly. Crater Flesh Gloves giving an additional like 2d6. This gives an additional 7 points when you land a crit. And what's funny is you can actually get 2 of these and they do stack. There's also the crit bow, similar to Vicious Long or Short Bow, which can further stack that up, giving 21 extra damage. The funny thing is, if you're using the ballast armor, that becomes double the damage. 42, it's crazy, crazy. But I have the Viconia's Walking Fortress on for defensive purposes if you really care about that, but we're stealthy, we don't really need to care. So double Dollar Amaris will be best in slot. You can put the Cold Snap in your offhand to chill targets, especially if you have like a sorcerer that's got Cone of Cold, you can set them up. Orin's daggers are also really good. Early game, the Knife of the Undermountain King gives you an increased critical hit chance as well, and Shadow Blade, which will give advantage on attack rolls against lately or heavily obscured targets. The Sucer Dagger can also be really nice early game because you can just attack someone with this and silence them. Steelmaker's another okay choice because it gives you hold person. This is obviously a later game item, but dual double Dollar Amaris is just so good. Knife of the Undermountain King, and then the Justiciar Scimitar in the early game. And don't be afraid to use a shield for that increased armor class, especially when you're getting set up early on. Now our best in slot is the Titan String Bow with a strength potion. This gives an additional 8 to our attack. So you get a +8 there, you get a +14 on a crit. We have a +2d6 from this. We're hitting like a truck, we're setting up surfaces. You can also go with other things like the Dead Shot for increased critical hit chance, even the Hellrider Longbow later on if you want to apply Fairy Fire to a group. As mentioned, the Vicious Short Bow works great too. The Bow of the Banshee early game is probably one of the best, and you can then use the Piercing Arrow from the Arcane Archer. Now, scrolls of greater invisibility, you can have one of your teammates hold a concentration on that for you, which is crazy because this will give you the best form of invisibility. It'll increase in the stealth check that you got to succeed every time that you do a stealth check, but you can actually do this like pretty much endlessly. You can also have someone else set up darkness if you don't want to cast it so you can hold your concentration. This again is for min-maxing purposes, but darkness is great so that we can hold pass without trace. So put that on yourself from the ring and then let it rip. So we're attacking with advantage from darkness here. And of course typically you succeed a lot more. Like you can literally get like 20 of those in a row. That was the worst possible luck. Again, it's a game of dice rolls, but make sure you stock up an Arrow of Many Targets and Arrow of Darkness. You don't need anyone to hold the concentration on darkness because you can literally have that set up in an area of effect, but Arrow of Many Targets are great because we're going to attack and get criticals hits off on all these surprise targets. As you can see there, 30 extra damage, 28 extra damage. So that's taking that Crater Flesh Gloves, it's adding it twice, it's adding the strength modifier from the Titan String Bow, and then it's adding the Dollar Amaris onto it twice. That's before we consider the amount of damage that you get from piercing. And again, if you had the ballast armor on, it further stacks it. I felt like that was overkill, but if you really want to min-max it, that's the way to go. So yeah, you just absolutely melt everything in its face. Critical hit, 27, 29, yeah, you see it there. We're literally hitting like 30 twice. Which, yeah, it has quite a bit of a setup. The darkness just makes it so that we're very defensive. We got another crit off there, insane. And this is before we even it's before we even use our action surge. Didn't get a crit there, but that's fine. They still don't see us. They're calling for assault, but we're succeeding on these stealth checks here, which will increase in difficulty every time. If you want to check here, that was a difficulty class 21. We rolled a 38, we rolled a 32, we rolled a 37, another a 27. Obviously, it's a matter of time before we get seen. Unfortunately, we ran out of, we're not in combat, so we can't actually use our special action surge here, so we can just end the turn. And yeah, we're still invisible. They can't even see us. The darkness is a bit of overkill. Yeah, took them out. But yeah, you can do some pretty crazy stuff with it. Absolutely powerful build because, oh, we failed stealth. So yeah, the Stealth Archer is crazy in this game, just like it is in Skyrim and many other games. Very powerful. Let me know your thoughts in the comments. Hit the subscribe button below. We'll catch y'all in the next one.